The 10-10-10 principle is an extremely simple and easy to follow set of guidelines that can be utilized to improve your overall health. In this video, I'm going to outline the 3 steps and explain why, although very, very simple, it can have a tremendous effect on your overall health. Just a quick couple of disclaimers before I start. Firstly, this isn't a full dietary program. It's simply a set of guidelines that you can follow that I think are likely to be particularly useful for people who are wanting to take those first few steps into improving their general overall health. And secondly, I didn't invent this principle. I was first introduced to it through the High Intensity Health podcast. But I have found, I have applied the principle to both myself and a few clients of mine. And I've been very surprised by the significance of the results, particularly given how simple the steps are. So what are the steps? Well, it's the 10-10-10 principle. So 3 steps, all involving the number 10 somehow. So the first is try and achieve 10,000 daily steps. Fairly simple. The second is to try and consume all your daily calories within a 10-hour eating window. So if you start eating at 9 a.m., try and finish eating by about 7 p.m. So it utilizes a very gentle intermittent fast. And the third step is to try and limit your intake of refined sugars to fewer than 10 grams a day. So the first principle, achieving 10,000 daily steps, is actually relatively straightforward, although it may sound like a lot. 10,000 steps is actually what the majority of health governing bodies would recommend is the minimum amount of steps that a person who is able-bodied should take in the absence of any medical or health conditions that may limit that. Now, like I said, 10,000 may seem like a lot, but there are various tricks you can employ that will actually help you achieve that number without really even noticing. So with these 10,000 daily steps, the absolute key is consistency. What most people find when they start to gauge this somehow, either with a pedometer or something on their smartphone, is that one day they might get 10, 11, 12,000 steps, but then they'll go 2, 3, 4 days in a row with maybe getting only 2 or 3,000 steps. So the important thing is to get some sort of device that will measure this for you and be consistent. Now, obviously there are a few ways to do this. The easiest thing is to make it practical. So I'm here walking my little dog. Obviously not everyone has a dog, but if you do, that's the easiest way to get 10,000 steps. Just walk your dog a couple of times, maybe a little bit more than you normally would. But making it practical in that way. The second is to just utilize more walking into your daily life. Walk to the shops instead of driving. Park your car slightly further away than you normally would. All those kinds of tips and tricks that you've probably heard before. But anything you can do to get those consistent 10,000 steps in is really essential. One method that I found to be particularly useful is incorporating short but frequent walks during the day. So for the average person, a mile is about 2,000 steps. These are very, very rough numbers. And will take about 15 minutes to walk. So if you utilize 3 of those in the day, maybe 1 before breakfast, 1 before lunch, and 1 before dinner, you're already about 6,000 steps into your quota, and then you've only got another 4 that you'll probably just achieve through your daily activity. It sounds onerous, but actually if you get into the habit of it, just a 10 to 15 minute walk before or after every meal, you can make a phone call or whatever. You'll really get used to it. and you'll be getting your 10,000 steps really without even noticing. So the second principle of consuming all your daily calories within a 10-hour eating window is really just utilizing a very, very modest intermittent fast on a daily basis. Now, it might seem a little strange to impose this restriction upon yourself, but there are likely to be a few major benefits you'll gain from imposing this very gentle restriction. So if you're having breakfast at 8:30 in the morning, it means you can have your dinner, just finish your dinner by 6:30. So for the majority of people who I've worked with and applied these principles to, you can either do this by having your breakfast slightly later in the day, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and then have your dinner at a sort of normal time. Or do the reverse, have your breakfast at a normal time and have your dinner slightly earlier in the day. It really doesn't matter. Choose the one that works for you. But basically, this is, in my experience, likely to have two major benefits. The first is improvement of hormonal profile. We do know fairly conclusively that utilizing some sort of time-restricted eating is very effective at improving insulin sensitivity, which of course is a major issue for modern health. People becoming very insulin resistant, which can lead to all sorts of problems and of course eventually it makes weight gain very, very easy. And the second benefit of this is really just practical. It makes you mindful of your eating. So if you choose the option of having your breakfast at a normal time and having your dinner slightly earlier in the day, it will really just make you mindful of your snacking and eating behaviors. So, once that 7 o'clock comes or 6:30 or 8 o'clock or whatever, you just stop eating. And my experience on using this with clients is that having that cutoff point is very, very effective at stopping people from consuming excess calories that they really, really don't need. So step two is a relatively simple, it might take a little bit of getting used to, but it really is a relatively simple mechanism for just keeping the reins in on some of your eating behavior. Now the final and third principle, eating fewer than 10 grams of refined sugars daily, is, in my experience personally, using these principles on myself and with clients, the most difficult to follow. That's because we find refined sugars everywhere. It's in our bread, it's in our cereal, it's in, canned goods, they, particularly with any sort of packaged or processed food, companies manage to sneak sugars in where you really wouldn't expect them. Now, huge caveat here. I am not talking about the sugars found in things like fruit and vegetables. You need not fear the 15 to 20 grams of carbohydrates in a medium apple or the 25 to 30 grams of carbohydrates in a banana. These are not refined carbohydrates, and there are a whole plethora of reasons why those sugars are different to the refined sugars that I'm talking about here. But even if you can't achieve this principle of fewer than 10 grams a day, just trying to achieve it is likely to utilize some significant benefit. What I've found quite consistently with my clients is when we do sort of food diaries and daily food eating breakdowns, I have not found a single client yet who has overestimated how much refined sugar they were eating on a daily basis. It's always underestimation or a significant underestimation. So once again, this principle will help you achieve a degree of mindful eating. You might think twice about picking something off the supermarket shelf. It might make you a little bit more mindful to read some nutritional labels. So even if you can't achieve fewer than 10 grams a day, it's quite a difficult thing. Even attempting to get there will likely yield some significant benefit to your general health. So there you have it, 3 relatively simple principles that you can follow that will likely yield real benefit to your health without you having to make any sort of massive or onerous changes to your eating behavior or your lifestyle. I hope you found that useful. Once again, if you're interested in any of these concepts or going more specific into your health and nutrition, get in touch at duncanrocknutrition.com. Take care. Bye.